Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, let's get started. We're talking about virtual showings today, and I'm going to start with describing that we first need to define what that means to us, to our clients, and to sellers when they have homes. So that's somewhat of a generic term that's become so familiar to us very quickly, but you need to define what that is going to look like. So I outlined 4 different things that we're seeing common practice in the market right now. The first would be pre-recorded either photos that have been turned into a video tour or 3D renderings offered by listing agents or photographers. So those are preloaded into the MLS or emailed to you directly when you have requested a showing. So that's one scenario that individuals are describing those as virtual tours. There are a number of listings that are listed in the MLS and that are not allowing in-person showings right now. So keep in mind, troubleshooting this, if you're trying to get more information than what you can find on the video, ask if the listing agent is still able to directly access the property and if they could offer a video tour as well. Obviously, it's not as ideal as our scenario that we can go in and provide a structured tour, but this is the means that we've been able to utilize to troubleshoot those properties we physically cannot get into. Then you have you pre-recording a video that you are recording in advance and sending to your clients. And then the fourth scenario, which is actually what I'm going to be teaching to today, is scheduling a video call with your client to allow you to actually provide a tour to your clients in person. I'm sorry, not in person, via video, but in live time. And this is my preferred avenue because those questions that organically come up, you know, would the stroller fit in that front closet? Hey, how much room is in the side yard if we wanted to create a dog run? Those questions that come up during an actual showing with your clients, if you are providing that video live, you can address those versus multiple visits to a property recording to answer some of those questions that you might not realize your clients have. So this training is going to speak to, and I'm going to address all of them in the end, but this training is going to speak to the situation where you have scheduled a showing with your clients that you are going to conduct on live video. Make sure, first step, practice in advance. We all know the first time you do a listing presentation, anything you're gearing up to do with your clients, practice in advance, and that's especially important with video. I recommend practicing moving slowly. I struggle with this even when I'm teaching and I talk too fast. So think of that video, if any of you are of the age where your grandfather recorded you as kids or you had a family member that shot video and by the time you watched it, you felt nauseous because they were moving so quickly, the good old camcorders. Think about that scenario, practice being steady and slow moving. And I actually recommend that you record a short video in your own home. The way that you would tour through a client through the property, so then you can watch that back just to yourself and see exactly what that perspective will be that your buyers will experience. So practice recording in advance and seeing what this video process will look like. Next, set expectations. We work on this on a regular basis with our clients every step of the way, and setting expectations for video showings is just as important as in-person showings. So explain the process. Explain how your client is going to log in to experience the showing. Explain how you will conduct the tour, and we're going to talk about that process. And what can your buyers expect so they don't feel nervous and they have a calm feeling going into showings. Something I'm finding is right now, because we're not physically seeing people, we're forgetting to stop and qualify them just as you would any other showing. Your time is valuable as it is ever, even though you feel like you might have a little more time on your hands these days. So make sure you're qualifying your clients and putting them through those steps just as you would in other situations. Make sure they understand closing costs. Make sure they understand how quickly the market is moving so that they are interested in that home when they go through this virtual showing, that they're ready to actually submit an offer. I also suggest, just as you do with in-person showings, I suggest you have a buyer's presentation in advance so they understand the process from start to finish and you can answer those questions. So that is a separate meeting with those individuals, but I would handle it the same way I would those in-person showings. It is important to adapt to our clients. So just as we teach that you need to adapt to your clients in communications, if they're more comfortable with text versus email versus phone, we adapt. It is important in this situation to adapt as well. So figure out what app your clients are comfortable with and try to adapt to them. If they don't have a preference, obviously you guys have been mastering Hangouts. So this is our ideal situation. You're comfortable with it already and you can practice in advance, but make sure you're adapting to your clients. And then I would even schedule maybe a 5-minute meeting ahead of time where they practice with that video app and you practice as well. So you can get any kinks out ahead of time and you're not working through that when it is 98 degrees, you're standing on a front doorstep, or your clients get frustrated before viewing a property because they're not able to get the video working or the audio working or something to that effect. So schedule that meeting ahead of time. When you do your buyer's presentation would be the perfect time, so you've worked out all of those kinks. And I will pause here and ask if anybody has any questions. Pretty straightforward. Time block. You guys are masters of time blocking anyway. We have a little extra time. It doesn't take quite as long to commute around as it does between properties at these times, but make sure you're time blocking with your clients, especially if you're doing a number of showings, so that they have expectations for when they're going to eat, just as they do in in-person showings, and when they can expect to have these video tours with you. I'll pop up here. Sharon will address recordings. Good question. I'll come back to that one. I do recommend either create a Google Maps presentation of where you're going to be showing all of these properties, or ideally use Moxie Presents to do a buyer tour. That way your clients, while you're driving in between properties, first of all, they know which properties you're going to, in what order they will appear, and they can do their research. That time when you're driving and getting set up for the next property, they can click on each of these properties, read into the properties, and start generating their questions and any specifics they want to see in the property before you get there. So we did have the buyer's tour presentation with Beth. We had that training a few weeks ago, and it is posted so that you can find that on the Boss. But this creates a really easy to follow visual for your buyers to understand where they'll be going and when. Tony just had a great training for us talking about preparing for video, and I'll ask him to give us a little overview of another training he has coming up this week at the end of this presentation. But if you have equipment available to you, certainly utilize it, and again, practice with it in advance. Equipment can include a second person. If you have a kid who's anxious to get out of the house and help, you've got a spouse, you've got one of your colleagues that's happy to go out with you, having a second person can really help with this tour, so that you have somebody who can open doors or vice versa while you're recording and you can go through the property. So consider that as well. Selfie sticks and tripods can also be very handy. I also recommend always shooting in landscape. That actually for me takes a little bit of practice in the first place, because holding a phone with one hand while you're opening doors is a lot easier this way than it is this way. So it takes some practice to get comfortable with that process. So I would definitely recommend landscape mode. If you're in vertical mode on your phone than it is, or portrait mode, it is very hard for people to get a feel for rooms, and they can get tunnel vision in trying to tour the home. So that landscape mode makes it a lot easier for them to understand floor plan and different elements of the home. Before you start the video, prep the home just as you would for any other showing. Unlock the doors, turn on all the lights, open the shades, close the toilets, look for that cockroach that got in, all of those things that you would do to make sure a home shows its best in a in-person showing. In advance of starting your video, get to the home, prepare the home so it puts its best foot forward. Walk through the home ahead of time, review the floor plan, and practice how you're going to describe the features of the home. I've watched some virtual tours online right now where I see people going, well, welcome to the, oh, it's a bedroom. Oh, no, that's the study. Hold on, let me see if there's a closet. And it can be very frustrating and confusing process. So walk through the home in advance of starting your video with your clients, get a feel for floor plan, notice any key features, do a little bit of research, and be prepared to get started. And then make sure you also have your MLS sheet available, so if they ask a question mid-tour, you are able to answer those questions. So again, what I would recommend is put your phone down when you first get to the home, or put it in your pocket rather, walk through with the MLS sheet, practice the specifics of what you'd like to describe before getting started. Start the tour from the curb to show curb appeal. So once you've prepped the home, you're all ready, doors are unlocked, lockbox is secured and tucked away, all of those things have happened. Give your clients the experience they would normally have where they're stepping out of the car at the property. We all know curb appeal is extremely important. You've shown properties with clients before where they walk out and say, nope, this isn't it. So we know how important curb appeal is to individuals. Something we spoke to previously when we did instructions for your buyer's walkthrough, or I'm sorry, your buyer's tour on Moxie, is recommending that your clients, because a lot of folks are looking for means to get out of the house, they can actually go into a drive-by tour to rate curb appeal ahead of time if you've provided them with the buyer's tour. And then you're just going to reiterate that when you start your video, start from the bottom of the driveway and approach the property so they have a feel for curb appeal. One of the most challenging things to provide to your clients is a sense of scale when you're touring them through a home. We know this when we have photos of properties that are vacant, they often appear smaller, almost always appear smaller. And even when you're showing a property, people can have a hard time figuring out where they can place furniture. That can be even more challenging when you are walking through somebody through a property virtually. So practice ways to convey size or scales to your clients, or scale. An example I mentioned here on the slides is point to doors, explain that these are 8-foot doors and the ceilings are higher than that, or a few feet higher, or whatever that description may be. You might also consider bringing something with you that allows you to help them see scale. I've worked with a number of military members, and military members quite often have a very short period of house hunting time that they can be in town. So I've in advance done a lot of virtual showings with those clients, gearing up to only seeing their favorites when they get in town. And I've done two things. I've purchased a $5 yardstick from Lowe's that is something I can lay in the middle of the floor and step back to give somebody a feel for that, or even grab 2 of them to be able to create the size of a sofa. Or bring something, for instance, such as a folding lawn chair. Bring something like that with you that you can bring into the house. It sounds a little bit crazy, but this room that you have on my visual here might seem really small to them, and they think there's no way that their big study desk could fit in there. But once you put something of some scale into the room, it can give them a better perspective and help them overcome that. We know the importance of that. Realtors invest regularly in digital staging to help with that scale challenge. Debrief. You're going to be so relieved that you've just finished the virtual tour. You rocked it. Don't just hang up the phone and say, I'll call you when I get back, or something of that sort. Allow your clients to debrief and ask them some questions about the property while it's still fresh. And you might even be taking notes on those details. Ask them first about the experience. How was that? What can I do to improve the experience and make it easier for you in the future? But then make sure that you're asking your clients the same questions you would be asking in in-person showings. Because we know even in person that our properties that we're showing clients can start to run together and they can start to confuse them. So make sure at the end of every showing you are debriefing on that specific property. And then just as you would in person, ask them to rate it against the others they've seen with you virtually today. If it's a no, or if it falls number 3, we know we can start creating a list that if we're scheduling in-person showings to follow, we've narrowed down that list for them. I also would recommend, please, please, please stop your video tour while you're traveling. I've seen a few of these on social media where realtors are chatting with their clients on their video and going between properties. I believe that I like that people are trying to create a unique experience, but safety should come first. But I also believe that you're losing some of your ability to have professionalism, present the property the way that you should. So stop the meeting for travel. Once your buyers have narrowed down their search to a few properties, you've ranked them, they're interested in them, and that's the point where you can schedule in-person showings to follow and follow all the means that we've been describing with our forms for protection, having masks, and all of those details. So this would be my recommendation. I'm going to pause here, see if we have any questions. No questions. This is a really fast one, guys. Sharon, to address your question, if it were me, the next thing I would be doing, and I know a number of you are showing new construction and models right now, a lot of buyers are interested in that. After you finish that showing for your clients, I would go right back through that home. You've just practiced it, you know the floor plan, you've mastered it. Go right back through that model and now record yourself describing the features of this property, going through the process so you can create video content that you can post to your social media. It is important for people, we have to remind them that the world is still spinning, real estate is still booming. So you can do that by posting photos and describing that you're on your way to video showings with your clients, but then use that time that you're already out in the community, you've already done all of this homework to prepare for these virtual showings, go back and do this. And one of the other examples I mentioned was that pre-recorded video. Put that together, record it so that you can go back home, you have some great content, and you can cut it into posts that you can put on social media. My two favorite apps for utilizing or for editing video that I find very easy to use for my iPhone users, a lot of you are using iMovie, and both iPhone and Android users, a lot of you are having great success with CuteCut, which is one of my favorites and the one I personally use on my system. And then Tony, I'll ask if you want to share. I know we have a training coming up on Wednesday. If you'd like to speak with that, you're going to teach us once we have some video content where we can be posting that.
Yeah, specifically YouTube. You know, with all the video use, the increase in video use we've seen company-wide over the last 6 or 8 weeks, which has been fantastic. Excuse me. There have been a lot of questions about using YouTube, and YouTube is an extremely powerful tool. So we're going to spend an hour talking about all the ins and outs, and Edward will be on with me talking about our tools and where you can share your YouTube links, and we'll talk about uploading from your phone and SEO and about a million other things. None of them complicated, but there is a lot of material there. So if you are using video now or plan to be in the future, I really think it'd be a great course for you to spend a little time with us on.
Excellent.
When is that class?
Thanks, Gay. That was Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also, Rob has a good question. While similar virtual open houses are a different animal, have you seen or heard of any best practices for those? Rob, I actually just went through 2 trainings over the weekend, listened to a few podcasts, and put some notes together for virtual open houses. I'll get those published by tomorrow, and I'll make sure that I can address just sharing a few of those topics with Tony as well. I'll schedule a follow-up to post it, but I'm just putting together some notes that I'll be able to share with the whole company and get some feedback from our other team members on here. We have a few agents who have had great success. One of our agents had a virtual open house last week and had 7 guests. They're collecting great contact information with posting those virtual open houses in ads to social media on Facebook. And the 2 examples that I've worked with in our agents, they've created a free Google form that allowed them to post that to social media where people could register to have safe visits. We're not having group activities. So we did virtual and then allowed people to schedule one-on-one showings if they liked the information they saw online. So I'll put that together for you. The video editing app, I'll actually show that is CuteCut. C-U-T-E-C-U-T. CuteCut. It's on Android or iPhone. We've had a few trainings on it in the San Antonio division, but it's actually really easy. It allows you to overlay watermarks. You can drop photos in. I find it very easy for editing. It's all on your phone. So if you've recorded the videos on your phone, you just upload those right to that app. You can edit and add your headshot, add your bio at the end, and it's really easy to use. You're welcome. Awesome. I know that was a quick training. I will post this overview. The big thing is just remember though it feels so different to us and it's a different practice than we're used to, these showings require the same prep. It is the same boxes that you're checking in preparing for those as far as scheduling, blocking out time. You can, Sharon, you asked if you can record these. You can record your showings if you want to with your clients. Make sure they realize you're doing that ahead of time so that they can go back and watch it. We are finding, though, between photos and the virtual tours, a lot of listing agents are offering that they can go back and do their due diligence and homework afterwards rather than going back and watching the video, but you certainly have that as an option as well. Or again, you might find they narrow it down to their top 3 and you go back and do full recordings that they can share with kids, the family members, spouses, parents, whoever they might want to share. And so do your due diligence, practice ahead of time, go practice on your home. I did that before this training. Went and practiced just in the office, wanting to create a tour of our office for folks who are curious about it. And I was way too fast and need to go back and do it again. So practice the system so you can feel comfortable with it and see what your clients are going to experience. That's all I've got today, everybody. I'll stop our recording and I'll post these slides for you. I'll add a few details on CuteCut, and then Rob, I'll make sure to follow up with the notes so everybody has access to it. Anything you want to add, Tony?
Erin, can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
When you're doing the virtual tour